I'm supposed to slightly monitor the Instagram chat so that I can start learning to do this all by myself. So that'll be my first step. Hello, Misty. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Oh, we have dogs in the house. Something startled them right on time. They knew we were starting, had to make a ruckus. So, all right. Hi, welcome to Marketing Unleashed. It's good to have you. We connected about this not too long ago because of a post we made. I don't really remember exactly what post it was, but we've been putting out like a little more business related content for a reason. We've noticed that it is an important thing to have more education in that business side of things and in all things business, whether it's accounting, marketing, running a business, hiring, how to price. There's so many things involved in running a business. And you reached out because that sparked your interest. It's a passion of yours, you said, to speak about business and teach business related things. If you can just, as we wait for people to hop on and anybody that does hop on, if you guys have any questions along the way that are about your personal business, feel free to throw them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them. But just to kind of give people an intro to who you are, if they don't already know you, tell us a little bit about like how you got started and kind of your journey into business ownership in the grooming industry.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So I actually went to school for marine biology. I wanted to be a shark scientist. Um, I know, right? That's how everything started. And I went
That's
to my
great.
lab, and my lab instructor was like, asking like what I wanted to do, and I told him I wanted to go out in the field and learn about sharks more. And he's like, well, the times are most of the grants and stuff are given to males and this and that. And I was just like, I really, yeah, it is. Times have
Wow.
times have changed. He was asking me this because I love lab. I loved it. I was really good at it. And he's like, the best thing you'll probably get is a lab job. And he was just being upfront with me. He wasn't being, sexist or anything like that. It was just like, what is your ambition? Because I see that you're really good at this.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think I want to be stuck in the lab the whole time. So I changed my career to business. And at the age of 19, I knew I wanted to have my own business. I just didn't know what it was going to be.
Hmm.
So I
So
worked
you
for some,
started with the business side of things. That's
yes.
a little bit different than what most people kind of view. They come in, they love to groom, and they're like, "Oh, I hate, I hate working for someone. I got to do this myself," kind of thing, and like force themselves into business. But you started out in business, so that's a cool transition into the industry versus how people are normally trying to
Yep.
figure things out.
Yep. So I was like, I wanted to own a Subway because I worked there. I thought, that was pretty lucrative. I found all the information I needed to know about that. And I was just like, this is not the business for me. I left there and started at PetSmart, and I was a dog trainer, and I worked at all the different jobs there. When I transferred to another location, they didn't need a dog trainer anymore. They needed a groomer.
Mm.
And I used to help with all of the super aggressive dogs, dogs that no one really wanted to touch. And that blossomed into a grooming career because
That's
I was
awesome.
like, okay, then I'll go ahead and do it. And I opened a new PetSmart, and they sent me straight to Academy right after because I already had my hands on. I already knew body language and stuff. And the rest is history. I have been a groomer for 21 years. I was a contest groomer within my um, time when I was doing my training with PetSmart. We had a Groomer to Groomer magazine, and Donna Boy was on the front cover of it, and it was her Jester dog. And I like screamed and came up to my manager. I was like, "What is this? And can I do it?" And she goes, "That's called creative grooming, and no, you can't." And I was like, why? And she goes, well, PetSmart won't let you. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but since you're really excited about it, what we'll do is we're going to take some Kool-Aid and we will color some dogs at the end of our, you know, time together in teaching. And so we took two poodles, we made one pink, one blue, and that was kind of the end of that. And I became a contest groomer. I'm really known for my creative. I have also done other things like I'm also known for Carry Blues. I actually show Carry Blues. We're getting into breeding as well. Um, so I have been all over the world competing. I've owned my business for going on 12 years now. All the other businesses that I worked for as a groomer, I'd always help them. So when I left PetSmart, I went to a private company, and he was just getting off the ground. He was a couple years in. I helped him refine his grooming, helped to educate them. I would also help train, fire, hire. I helped design his newest salon so it was more efficient. And so I got my education on someone else's time. I always wanted to do that. I always tell
Yeah,
people to do that. It's a lot easier if someone else is footing the bill. So,
absolutely. I mean, even multiple, because every place runs things differently.
mhm,
So when people are going into like a school situation and going to learn how to groom and think that they can just go right out and start a business, I'm not saying that you're not going to be successful, and maybe they have some business background like you did yourself and just kind of like know how to run a business, which is a very
yeah,
difficult thing. And if anybody says otherwise, they're lying to you. Like, oh, it's
yeah,
so easy to run a business. Like, you're probably doing something wrong or not doing something that you should be doing.
yep,
So yeah, it's hard to kind of just go from I'm learning how to groom dogs and then start a business. It's so much better. And like you said, have somebody else foot the bill of your education to go work in other people's salons. Even if that's like the purpose of you going to work in a salon is like, let me just learn everything I can about how they run this salon and figure out what I like and what I don't like and use that for, how I want to run things. And maybe you go to another salon and then you take a couple years to just learn things. That's such a great idea to like not just jump headfirst into let me just start a business and have no idea, that's a scary thing. But you said that you left PetSmart. Was there anything that kind of like pushed you to leave that? I know there's a
oh,
big talk. There's a
yeah.
lot that goes on about like, oh, it's people either say they hate it or they're fine with it kind of PetSmart situation. Is it like it from your perspective, was it bad that you started at PetSmart? Would you rather
No.
have started at another, or like that was a good move for you?
So I had worked at a couple different PetSmarts. For the most part, my PetSmart career was a very good one for the most part. The person that was my manager was also the instructor for the classes as well.
Hmm.
Um, she cared a lot and she taught me a lot. And the lessons that she taught me during that time still stick with me. And that's also how I kind of train my new people as well. Um, I was kind of promised a salon position, a salon manager position. And I also wanted to be the instructor for the academy because I love teaching.
Hmm.
And anytime anyone would come back, I would be the one that would kind of take over and kind of help and stuff like that. That was kind of pulled from underneath me. And the last straw was when I started competing and I got a slap on the wrist. My first toe dip into competing was, do you remember Rags to Riches from Double K? They had
No.
that. Okay, so they had this like before and after. It was it was one of the very first online grooming competitions. And I'm talking about a long time ago.
Pre-COVID for sure.
Yes, long time ago. Um, and I entered the very first one. And so PetSmart policy is you can't take a dog to use it for, grooming competitions and stuff like that. So all I did was take a before and after picture. And it was of a golden, an Australian golden doodle. At that time, that meant something. Now it does not. Um, but I did this huge transformation. And out of 600 entries, I took fifth.
Nice.
And
And got a slap on the wrist for it.
I got a slap on the wrist for it.
Oh my God.
And I like what I didn't understand was like PetSmart was sponsoring like grooming competitions. And I was like, so why is it that you are sponsoring it, but then you don't want
Yeah.
your people to go compete?
Hmm.
And so that was my last straw. And I was like, I'm done. You don't want me to grow. You don't want me to like help head anything.
Yeah.
My talents are not being utilized here. So I found another company that I could help shape and mold and be able to get my hands dirty. Because again, I wanted my own business. I
Hmm.
started purchasing equipment then, like at the very beginning. So that's kind of how that journey went. I finally left my my next home, the Pet Palace, the private company, and I opened mine.
Mhm.
I now no longer compete. I'm now the judge, and I show dogs, and now my kids show dogs. So that's kind of
Aw.
like my journey. But yeah, I love teaching business. My favorite classes to teach are my business classes and my pet tech CPR classes. Both of them, I think, is very important for every groomer to know.
Yeah.
The one thing I hate is I understand accounting isn't sexy. I understand that. My mom was a budget analyst, so I had no choice but to learn.
Uh,
Um, but
yeah.
it's important. It's even if you're not going to own your own business, it's important to know how a business is supposed to run. It's
Mm.
important to know the difference between a 1099 and a W-2. So if you're trying to go get a job, it's important to know there are red flags.
Yes.
If someone doesn't know, like so many times I see groom shops pop up and they're like 1099 and I'll pay you 50%. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're going to go out of business.
And then you
Um,
see the people that are like, well, everyone else in my town is on 1099. And it's like, okay, so if everyone's hopping off the bridge to their death, are you going to follow? Like, you can't just assume that everyone's doing the right thing because most people have no idea what they're doing.
exactly. And they're not going to know until the government comes and slaps them on the wrist. Like I just read, I think it was yesterday, someone, and I always offer my assistance. I always say you can always PM me and I can help you. But this
Mhm.
person was devastated because she has owned a groom shop with employees and did not have workers' comp, and she got slapped with like a $17,000 fine.
Wow.
And she's like, I didn't
That's a lot.
know. And I just went on there and I said,
Yeah, they don't
when
care.
you hire your first person, you must have workman's comp. And that's one of
Yeah.
the things, like a 1099 person, they're supposed to be a contractor. So you're supposed to
Yeah.
be able to like do everything yourself. So you don't have to have workman's comp. But if you have a legal employee, which you should, a
Hmm.
W-2, you're required to offer them workman's comp. In certain states. You have to have a 401k. I heard this just recently that there was another state that just enforced it. Like 5 people. You have 5 people that work for you. You have to
Yeah.
offer a 401k.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
heard about that. You have to check with your state because there's
yeah,
so many little things that you don't think about. And they're not like, here's a handbook of exactly how to do everything and all of the laws involved in it. They don't make it easy for you at all. They
no,
don't tell you anything. You literally have to research every little bit of everything you do. They do not make it easy. So yeah, every state's different. So yeah, like you said, there's if you have a certain amount of employees, you may have to have a 401k involved. So if you have like 4 employees and you're thinking about hiring that fifth one, that might change your mind a little bit until you figure out, how you have to go about doing that and what it's going to cost you because it will cost more. And so if you have 5, you might as well have 10 because if you got to set that up right at that
well,
point,
yeah,
it's like your taxes where it's like, do I really want to make more because then I'm going to be taxed more?
yep.
Before you make that step up, yeah, definitely look into it. That's such a big point there.
Yeah, and there are places that you can find this information out.
Hmm.
One, you can definitely get a consultant that's familiar with your state.
Yeah.
So there are definitely, I'm one of them, but there are other people that I know that are great at advising people. The other big thing is you can go to your chamber of commerce. If you own
Hmm.
a business, you had better be a member of your chamber of commerce because they are the wealth of information. They're
Yeah.
going to know what the new laws are coming down. Like mine is super active. So they have a meeting like once a month for young professionals, and they have twice a month for newcomers. So,
Nice.
and they'll have different topics about like um, how to market, how to
Hmm.
network. They even have networking programs too that they get together once a month, and you can network with people in the area as well. So there's things that you can do to find this stuff out. Taking classes too, business classes. Again, I understand that they're not super sexy. Um, because people don't feel that that is something that they're going to get information out of. Like,
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing that I tell people from takeaway from my classes is, if you have employee files and you have their I-9s, you have to keep them in separate drawers and separate files. They cannot be in your employee. You will get charged $20,000 per infraction.
Oh my God.
And
Nothing
that's just
cheap
simple.
ever.
No,
Like they don't mess around with those fees, man. 17,000 for workman's comp. And then if they discover that you have files now, I mean, like, are these files, these are like hard copy files though. And do you have to keep a hard copy file? Because everything's so digital these days.
It depends. It depends on your state. You might have to keep it. Like, I literally have every single person that has ever worked for me. I don't throw it away. I just don't.
Yeah.
But some of them you might have to keep them for 2 years. Some of them you might have to keep them for 5 years. And again, it depends on your state.
Yeah.
I just prefer to keep all of my stuff together. Now, of course, I have a hosh posh. So I have, the hard copy, and then I also have a digital copy, because my accounting thing will take care of a lot of it. But I still want a hard copy of an I-9. I don't have to, but I personally want to have one, just in case someone puts something in or something comes up. I have a hard copy of that.
Backups
but again,
are never a bad idea.
no backups. Yeah. But that's like the biggest thing is you have to keep those two separate. And a lot of people don't know that, understand that. But if you get audited and they come in and they find that, that is expensive. That's per infraction.
Yeah. And your ignorance does not excuse you. They could care less.
Yep. And there's always things that are changing, just like your minimum wage. A lot of states are trying to go to $15 an hour, or they want to go higher to $22 an hour. You have to be aware of what your state is at. And even so, ours right now, like 1070, I think it just went up. We're working towards 15. You have to make sure that the people that you have hired currently are not falling below minimum wage. So that's a big one. So I always do it when it comes out. Everyone gets like a 25-cent raise. I don't care if you're anywhere close to minimum wage. I don't want you to feel like you could go somewhere else and do an easier job somewhere and get the same amount of pay. So that's something you got to think about too. It's got to be built into your pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. How many employees do you have right now?
We're doing massive hiring right now. The most I've had is 32.
Is this all one location or multiple?
Two. So I've got two locations. My first location just got a remodel. It was going from 5 groomers to 12 groomers. So it's a massive, it is a massive upgrade. For 4 years, we didn't take new clients. So we didn't have room. So it's a nice problem to have. Yeah. But that also means that I have massive hiring I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
So you usually see my hiring ads everywhere.
That's always fun.
Yes. And, even when it comes to, the hiring stuff too, why is it important to put all your information out there too? Why is it important to tell everyone, hey, this is an environment that we have. These are the benefits that we have. Because when I look at these hiring signs, I see, inquiring about a full-time groomer, PM me here. And it's like, well, who are you? Where are you? Like, I don't understand how that's going to attract someone. You want to put a little bit more time and effort into it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's an ad, right? You're advertising for your business. You want to, it's just like advertising for clients, because you want to have the best clients you can, right? You don't want the ones that never brush their dog and want to come in once or twice a year. And so you're not advertising to find those types of people, because if you're just like, hey, I'm a dog groomer and I'm looking for clients, that's probably the type of client you're going to get. Yeah. So you got to advertise and promote yourself in the same way you would to try to find a really great client, the way you would for a really great employee. So let's kind of start back a little bit to, you left PetSmart, you went and learned what you could from the private salon, and then you decided, okay, it's time for me to now start on my own. When you started up, you started just by yourself, or I mean, like, how soon was it before you decided to start hiring when you started your own salon?
Okay, so I started advertising for my salon 6 months prior to me opening.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it where my first 7 days, I made all the money I needed to be open.
Nice.
So I
You were
covered all
booked.
my expenses. I was booked. I was booked, and that's the way to do it. Like so many of these people, they'll go in and they don't do any advertising, and they think that, oh, people are just going to flock to me. No, you have
Yeah.
to put some work into it. Within 2 weeks, I was like, I need to hire.
Yeah.
So my first
So that was pretty
month,
quick. With your 6 months ahead of time now, how were you promoting yourself? Because I see a lot of people that are like, I'm going to be opening and I don't really know how to promote, the fact that I'm opening, because obviously they're not grooming any dogs. So like, were you using past pictures of dogs you had groomed? Were you kind of promoting the space, being open soon, and just like general, this is what's going on and will be coming soon, sign up? Like what were like kind of the images or the verbiage that you were using to try to get people to book ahead of time?
So I was already award-winning groomer because I've been competing for so long. So I did have a big sign out in the front saying award-winning grooming. I also put my salon next to a pet store, well, a pet feed store. So both of my salons are actually next to the same one. It was Pet People, and then they were bought out by Hollywood Feed. So with that, I already have some foot traffic there. So that definitely helps. You make a great impression on next door.
Location.
Yep. Yep. They usually drop the dogs off. They go next door, grab their food, and go home. So I made really good friends with everyone at the store. Gave them my cards. They handed them out. I also went to like the dog parks. I put flyers up saying, "Hey, new salon coming." Put cards there as well. Don't use the tag ripoff ones because people don't have all the information. It's a lot better to have the cards. The biggest thing that I did was I went to my bank and regular banks, and this is what I tell people all the time. It cost me 24 to 26 cents per one of these. I would take treats and I would put them in a pink zebra bag. Zebra is our one of our colors, is part of our branding.
Your pattern.
Our pattern, yes. If you look at our photos inside the shop, you see the zebra.
Nice.
So I wanted them to connect the color of the bag and the logo and patterns on the actual card to the actual facility. And I had them handed out to everyone that came through with a dog through the drive-through.
Nice.
I got so many clients from that. So many people were so excited. And I probably stocked them for probably, I don't know, a year and a half. And I did all the local, and they would call me. They'd call me and say, "Hey, I'm out. Everyone's asking for your bags." And I would just drop them off.
So that is such a great, like, out of the box thinking. People are always like vets, and the dog parks are kind of common but obvious. But yeah, that's a really good, like, not obvious, not dog related way to do it, because they do. I mean, I've been to banks where they have dog treats. So that's a thing they're already doing. If they can get them for free, exactly. Why not?
And some of them, some of the banks, when they saw the popularity, then they were like, "Hey, let's get your business." And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm already banking with someone else." And
not to be awkward.
Yeah, but I would always ask. I'd come in and I'm like, "Hey, I'm a local business owner. I'm going to be opening. I wanted to sponsor," and that is the key word: sponsor. Because that means, hey, I'm going to put all the money and effort into this. You're already going to be handing these out. All you're going to do is grab a bag, and they would get such great feedback from that. The thing I would say is don't use peanut butter treats, because you don't need anyone going into anaphylactic shock.
Yeah, so, like the employees. Yeah, that's a good point.
Even the client too.
True.
Like if they're allergic to peanuts, like you should never use peanut butter toothpaste. Yeah, same thing. Just stay away from the nuts. So use something that's not related, because you never know who's gonna get it, and you don't want to be sued because someone opened your bag and had a nut allergy. So, but yeah, I got a ton of people
That's so
from
cool.
that. And then what we did, and it was so productive that we did it twice. So when people came in, and if they referred anyone, we would give both sets of family blueberry facials. You would also get your name put into a raffle for an iPad mini. We did that
Nice.
twice because I mean, at that point, I think they were like $200-300.
Yeah.
At that point, this is like 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nothing, and I blew that one out of the water so much that I did it again. So,
Very cool.
you know, people are really excited, and you know, it's always a thank you. You say, thank you so much for referring this person. Here's a free blueberry facial. It cost me 6 cents per each dog. So I think I can afford a 6 cents for everyone, you know, if I'm making like $75, $100 for this dog. I think I'm pretty good there. So when you're looking at marketing and you're looking at bang for your buck, you've got to look outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Can also get if you go to the what is he called, the dog warden, you can actually purchase all of the registrations for all of the dog owners in a certain radius, and you can, it's like 10 cents per page that you can have printed out, and then you can target those in a mailing campaign.
Well, there you go.
So,
Yeah, that's definitely out of the box. I mean, you know, these days too, it's all, I wonder if you could get their emails, like, and be able to target them like on through Facebook ads and things like that. You can't really email people without getting their permission. So let me clarify that as like, you can't like buy an email list and just decide to email everybody, because that's illegal and you can get in trouble and blacklisted. But you can put emails into Facebook advertising and target them that way. So that's always an option. But yeah, I love all of those. Those are great ideas as far as like out of the box thinking and trying to do things before you open, for sure, to be able to have that.
Because that's when you have the
solid
time. When you have the time before you open,
there's not a whole lot you can do if you're waiting to open.
No, there's not. And it's and then you start taking phone calls, and then you start booking them. And then maybe you give yourself a so the other part of this is your contractor is going to give you a deadline of when you're supposed to open. Don't believe that. Add 2 weeks. Just add 2 weeks to it. Okay.
2 weeks or months, maybe.
That too. But I mean, it depends on what you're getting done. What I'm getting at is they could be done, but we could also be waiting for the final walkthrough and the inspection. So it's not necessarily the contractors. It could be that maybe you have a super busy area that needs those final sign-offs, and it's just going to take a while. And that means that you have to sit there and wait, because you can't open, because you will get slapped with fines if you open before you get the final walkthrough. So always a good idea, have 2 weeks from when your contractor says it's going to be done. And if you know you get to open up earlier, then that's great. You can call those clients and say, hey, I got to open up earlier, and then you can just move them. It's a lot harder if you do all of this legwork and then you have to move people back. That
don't
don't
overpromise.
Yes. So
stay on the safe side for sure.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. You opened and hit the ground running and decided this is way busier than I anticipated, quicker. So decided to hire. What did you do to start looking? Like, where did you, I mean, obviously this was a little while ago, so things change. Like you said, things are always changing, and you know, there's what you did then might be much different than what you're doing now. So maybe like just talk about the initial hire, like how you decided like it's safe for me to hire. Like I know I'm making enough money and I can cover someone, you know, they need a paycheck. You need to make sure you're paying the people that you hire. And that's a scary situation to be in, is if like you're not making enough, and like, how do you know you're making enough? Will I be able to, you know, pay this person, you know, every 2 weeks or however? How do you even decide how often to pay them? Like there's so much involved in just that first hire. Like you said, you need to get workman's comp immediately and make sure that's involved. So like, what were the steps you took as just this new business owner deciding like, okay, I need to hire, like what's next?
Okay, so the biggest thing is too many owners open with no money or very little money. You really, I understand shoestring budget. Don't get me wrong. I know I'm the deals lady. I don't like to pay full price for nothing if I don't have to. I will buy used things if they're good quality and stuff like that. So pre-planning is a must, but you really want to have 4 to 6 months worth of expenses. So like if your expenses for the month to just open the lights, keep the lights on, is $10,000, then you're going to need $60,000. You know, if it's $5,000, you know, you're going to need less than that. But you kind of need to figure out like how much your rent is, how much the triple net is. A good thing is to ask around other groom shops, usually how much is your electric, how much is your water. You can get an idea from other people. You can even ask other businesses that are in the Chamber of Commerce too, and they can kind of give you an idea. I always like to go err on the side of caution. So if they tell me 200, I'm going to put 300.
Yeah.
Because I would rather be pleasantly surprised at the end of the month than terrified of where
overestimate for sure.
So it came down to, I could not keep up with the amount of phone calls that I was getting and the amount of people that were walking in and wanted to talk to me. I was getting about 90 phone calls a day.
Wow.
Yeah, 75, 90.
I mean, that's a lot of phone calls. I mean, the email might not, you know, like have been any better. If you're constantly on the phone, how are you grooming dogs?
Exactly. And that's what that became the issue.
Yeah.
Is I can't field all of these if I wait to the end of the day, groom all the dogs. Because again, I'm booked because I pre-plan 6 months ahead of time. So I'm completely booked solid. And I still have to answer the phone, talk to the customers. I have new customers coming in from next door because they've been excited. Because, you know, for 6 months when they've been doing my demo, guess what? I've had that sign out. I've talked to the people next door. And so the people next door is like, oh my gosh, did you know that they're open next door now? And so now they come in and talk to me. I don't have time for that. So I needed someone to help bathe for me, run the front for me. So my first hire was actually my longest standing employee. She was with me for 9.5 years. She had to retire due to a medical issue. Without her, I don't think I would have been able to build what I built because she was my right-hand lady. I taught her to bathe. I taught her to how I want my customers treated, how I want everything put in the computer. And then she would then teach the next person. We would kind of tag team it. So that first hire is a critical hire because I don't want to scare people away and say you shouldn't hire at all, but you really should think about what you lack as a person. I don't want to hire a person like me. Because that's not going to help me. If I say I stink at doing numbers, then I need to hire someone that is good at numbers. Yeah. Because then I can take care of, you know, the grooming or, you know, the upset customers, or maybe they're great with upset customers and I am really bad at it. You want to look for someone that has strengths where you don't, because otherwise you're going to have two of the same
people. You need like complementary skill sets. That's the same if you're like going into a partnership with someone as well. You don't want a partner that lacks in the same areas you lack, because then how is that valuable, right? But yeah, hiring someone, that first initial hire is almost semi like a partner because they're handling so much, because it's just you and it's just them. So they're picking up a lot of the slack. So like, yeah, I agree with you that first hire is pretty critical and needs to be like the right person with the right skill set and the right vibe, because you guys got to work together. Obviously, there's that whole side of things of just like feeling someone out and being like, okay, we vibe and this will work. Because that's a very intimate relationship with your first hire for sure. You're teaching them everything, and that's that can be scary too, because what I hear is so many people nervous about hiring people because they're like, well, what if I teach them everything and then they just leave and go start their own business, which, you know, is like what you said you did. But
I've had
If that's
that.
the case, I mean, I think you just got to be honest with people too. Like if that's the case, maybe something like that is better for them to learn from a shop that's running with more people in it. Like why would they want to
Yeah.
come learn from someone who's just by themselves? That's not going to teach you very much as opposed to a shop with a whole, bunch of employees and it's running and it's been running. So how did you find this person? You said, I mean, like you said how
So
were you actually like putting
so
the
I
ads out?
have
Because
been
now you
using-
have ads that are a little bit
Yeah.
different probably from back then. But how was it back then?
So I already have a journalism background because I did that in high school. And so I already kind of knew how to write one of these.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote it. My very first ad that I put out, I got 70 to 80 applicants.
Wow.
Let me tell you, that was overwhelming
Yeah.
because it's a lot easier to decipher groomers than it is someone that has never been in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to tell you that you're not going to play with puppies all day. No one
Yeah.
listening is ever, am I ever going to need to say that? Okay. We all know we play with their teeth, not them. But like, so I had to look at everyone's background. I had to see what they had given me. I also looked at things to eliminate, and that's a big one. So if you're putting out a good ad, you want to put controlled questions in there. You want to be able to eliminate all of these people that are not going to work out. So I put an ad on Workable. Workable is a few $100 per month per ad, I believe. We're on a plan right now. And it puts it out in 17 different job postings. So like Monster Jobs and Indeed and stuff like that. So you're paying one fee versus paying multiples. It also filters all of your stuff in there so you can actually put that person as you've interviewed them, your second interview, you're hired them. You can do all of your corresponding through there. You can actually text message them, email them through that. You can put notes and stuff in there. So before I got into all of that part, because they didn't have that when it first started, I had to print all of them out. So those are features now that they have, which is great.
AI
Oh
in
my
there to figure
gosh.
out everything now. That
No.
must be so much easier.
Oh my gosh, the stacks of oh my goodness, the stacks of papers. But it was great when I
Yeah.
had it back then. And clearly I've been using them for 12 years now.
Yeah.
Because I really like them.
That's
And
awesome.
back then they didn't have this like rating system, but I just printed them out. I had my little key that I still do as far as like asking certain questions. So I'll say, something like full-time, part-time, which location. So I have a little key right at the top. So my main questions I need to get answered are right there so I can see everything. But it really comes down to, how am I going to eliminate people?
Yeah.
And people don't think of it that way. They think of it, I need to hire like the best one. I was like, well, you got to whittle it down.
Yeah, you're never going to find the perfect hire out of a stack of papers like that for sure. It's just impossible. What I do love about your qualifying question and something that like you talking about like getting rid of people. I read somewhere about like putting a question in where it's like, put your name in all caps or something like that. Or like you got to hide something in there to make sure they're reading the entire thing. Because if they're just like out there and they're just like mass applying to shit, they're not actually reading about your company and what the job description is and what it entails and all of that. So if like in there somewhere or like towards the end or something like that, you hide something, and it could be crazy. It could just be some like random thing just to know that that they read it, and you can easily just be like, oh, they didn't read the whole thing. Bye. Done. Like you're it's just like the easiest way to really flush everybody out quickly.
Yeah.
Because you're not reading the job description. That's an important thing. Like you want someone that's thorough and paying attention.
Yeah, we have two of them. So anyone that's touching my money has a math question. And the math question, the math question is, if a client's bill is $72 and they tipped 20% and the groomer got 70% and the bather got 30%, how much percentage which each person get.
Mhm.
You'd be surprised on how many people give me one number, or they divide the whole bill, or they round. They're like, it's about this. And I was like, there is no about. Literally, they will say about this. And I'm like, no, you either know how
Gone.
to do this or you don't. I mean, I had one person that was like, why didn't you have me come in? And I was like,
Oh my God.
you failed the math question. She goes, you can teach me. I was like, that's what high school's for.
Yeah.
No,
We're not here
you're
to
not,
teach you math. There's a lot of
no,
things that you could take someone that's super green and doesn't know anything about grooming if they're the right fit for your business, and you can teach them so many things, but we're definitely not here to teach math.
no. And,
No,
and
that's
we're
crazy.
we're not talking about calculus. We're talking about,
Yeah.
I need you to split the tip.
Basic.
That's all
Basic.
you're doing. And I'll accept 2 answers. 2
Yeah.
answers is okay. If you give me 3 answers, I'm really going to look at you, because I was really asking for 3.
Yeah.
So I will accept 2. And then I have another one for everyone else. It says, upload a photo of a corded Commodore.
Nice. So they're
What in
paying
the world?
attention. They got to know
Yeah,
what
what
that
in the
is.
world is a corded Commodore? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. You take it and you throw it into Google, and the first photo that you get, you screenshot it and you send it in there. So what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do is figure out if you have reasoning deduction, if you can actually follow directions, because if I give you a direction that has a couple different steps, I need to
Yeah.
know that you're able to do it. If someone calls in and has a rare breed and you have no idea what it is, you need to know where to get the resources.
Google. It's amazing how
Google.
much people can't think to just Google
You would be
something.
You would be surprised on how many times I get resumes in there, or someone takes a picture of themselves or a picture of their dog and puts it in there. I had someone do a drawing of a dog, and I'm just like, no. But those are all controlled. Then I don't waste my
Yeah.
time. Because when I first started hiring, I was trying to do the prim and proper thing, give everyone an hour, and I had so many people not show up. And that's part of hiring. Is you're
Yeah.
going to have people that don't show up. And then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I gave everyone a half hour, and I would do this on my day off, and I would waste all my days off, because I would have, it came to the point where we'd all put bets on how many people would show up.
Wow.
So if I had 10 people scheduled, only 2 would show up, 2 or 3.
Wow.
So now I don't do them on
That's
my
a
days
shame.
off. And if I am going to do it on my day off, it's going to be a virtual. It'll be a virtual on Skype. So if you don't show up, I wasted 5 minutes of my time. I shut my laptop and I go see my girls. So otherwise, I do it while I'm working.
Mhm.
And if you show up, that's great. If you don't, I'm still working.
Yeah.
And I will only do 1 to 3 interviews per day. That's it.
Are you
So
like grooming a
you
dog
have
and
to-
interviewing them at the same time?
No, so what I do is I have about 2.5 hours in the morning while my bather is bathing and prepping my dogs. So I have about 2.5 hours on Thursday, Tuesday and Thursday, that I do administrative things. I do paperwork, or I call whatever company I need to order something for, or talk to whoever I need to talk to. That's my
Mhm.
administrative time. That's when I do my payroll and all that stuff. So I will take that time and give that to a potential hire. If you show up, that's great. Then I'll interview you. If you don't show up, I will continue my work.
Yeah, that's good.
So
That's a
you
good-
have to think
That's a
about-
good advice there, because yeah, I'm sure that is a very common thing,
It is.
and that sucks because it's a waste of your time. You're trying to
It
give
is.
somebody an opportunity, and it's like, okay, well,
But those controlled questions also help.
yes.
I'm not saying they're all going to show up, but
Yeah.
if they can't pay attention to that, then they're not going to be paying attention to actually showing up. I'm not saying it's
Mhm.
foolproof, but it does get rid of the people that are doing mass, putting in all applications. And I can usually check the ones that are doing that. They're kind of telltale signs.
So when you interview someone, I'm curious, what are some of your questions? Because we recently, and maybe, I don't know if this was the post, but I recently put a post out about like interview questions, and what are some things that people would ask when you interview someone. I'm gonna just read these off real quick, just because it was a good post, and I want to see if you ask any of these, and if there's any others that you ask that aren't on this list. But here we go. Do you have any prior experience working with dogs? If so, where and what were your duties? Pretty standard, but like you'd be amazed at who can't think of things to ask interviewees. What do you think is most important when it comes to grooming? Tell me about a time when you had conflict with a customer. What happened and how did you handle it? Would you rather groom a wiggly puppy or a senior dog that can't stand? And I think a lot of these are just to kind of like gauge the type of groomer they are, like what, obviously if you'd want to pair them with the right dogs as well, things like that are important just to kind of get a feel for like who these people are. Are you a problem solver or do you prefer direction? Are you good under pressure? What would a typical workday look like for you? If they are obviously already a groomer, if this isn't somebody who's never groomed, but get an idea for like how many dogs they've groomed in a day and like what their workload typically would be. Like you can't expect somebody to groom 8 dogs a day if they're used to grooming 4 dogs a day kind of thing.
Yep.
Pick a breed and then tell them the breed, say, share the entire grooming process with me step by step. Just verbally explain to me how you would groom this particular breed of dog. What are your favorite tools? Do you have those tools yet? And what tools do you own already? What are your goals in the industry and how do you plan to achieve them? What would you say is the most important in your everyday life? And if you could be any breed of dog, what would it be and why?
Okay. So some of those I definitely ask, but I ask in a different way. So a lot of those questions are saying like what kind of experience and stuff you have. If you've worked at a shelter before, those are actually on my application.
Okay.
So I already know.
You're pre-asking them.
Yes, I am pre-asking it because again, it's part of that. Who can I knock out?
Mm-hmm.
If they have prior experience, like the people that I really like to talk to are horse people. So horse people understand hard work. And they know how to muck out a stall. They know how, like, you have to love horses to own one, to work with them. So going from a couple 1,000-pound thing down to 100-pound thing is super easy. So anytime anyone says anything about horses, I want to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have Otterbein, which is a big, huge horse university here. And so I would get a lot of students that come here. So I really want to talk to those people because hard work is already ingrained in them. And so I do look for that. You are already asking if they've ever worked with any animals through a rescue or a shelter, and they'll tell me what they already have. So I don't really necessarily need to ask that. But I will ask, tell me how one of your days would go at, let's just say, a corporate store. Okay, so we're just going to go down the list here. So tell me how at this corporate store, what does your day look like? How many dogs are you doing? How do you come in? How is it set up? All of that. And they'll say, oh, I come in, I check in all my dogs and I answer the phones or I do this and that. And then I groom 5 dogs. Okay. And then at the end of the day, I do cleaning. All right. So he or she has already told you kind of what they are already expected to do and what they do on a normal basis. So I don't feel that I need to go in and do a nitty gritty on it. And then I'll say, what did you like about that job?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, they're kind of taken back by that question. And some people kind of give me a weird look. I was like, I just want to know what you like about it. And a lot of people are like, well, I really like the freedom I have to book any dogs that I want. I'm able to like talk to my owners. I really love my coworkers, so those things key right there tell me a lot about that person. And then I'll ask, what did you dislike about it? This is where people get nervous because they think, well, I don't want to bash my own, the previous employer. And I'll if they seem worried, I tell them, I said, no, this isn't a bash fest. I want to know why you're quitting. There was a reason you quit. So then I'll hear, oh, well, me and someone else wasn't getting along and it just made my day miserable, or, management wasn't giving me a raise. I've been there for 3 years. I have yet to get a raise. So what this tells me is we value the relationship that we have with our coworkers. If we're talking about, this one coworker just disrupted everything. Management is not doing their job in making sure that their employees are happy and keeping up with the times. As long as you are learning more things and with the company longer, they should be getting raises.
Yeah.
So that tells me a lot without asking a ton of questions. And I'll do that for every single job they have. And I'm going to listen to see if I hear reoccurring. If I always hear, oh, it was management. Oh, it was management. That's probably not management. To go
Mm.
through that many jobs and it's always
Yeah.
the manager's problem, probably not.
Yeah.
So there's telltale signs without having to lead them to water because a lot of times people don't know how to interview. Most of us are neurodivergent. So we already hate contact with other human beings. We hate eye contact. We just want to go in and then we want to get it done and then go in the corner and cry or something. So we also have to look at who we're interviewing, which is
Yeah.
people that are on one of the spectrums. So I want to try to make it as casual as possible. If I have a brand new person, like I do a lot of I have a middle schooler that works for me. Okay.
Really?
Yes. Yes. He is my cleaner. Yes.
Wow.
I employed him and his brother, his older brother, and then their younger sister, which is 9, is employed at another groom shop for a pooper scooper.
Wow. How did you find them?
Mom, I had posted a thing on the moms group that was like, hey, we're looking for a cleaner. It's great for high school students or college students. It's 3 hours a day. After they get off
Mhm.
of school, they can come in. It's low stress. You're just literally cleaning tubs, floors, and kennels. Like
Yeah.
it's not mind-blowing work. And this mom was like, oh my gosh, will you hire any under 16? I go, yes, I will. That is the only job I'll hire under 16
Mhm.
is the cleaner. Um, but yeah, so
That's so cool.
when you get these people in, look at their body language. The body language says a lot more than what they are saying because someone can lie to your face, but their body does not lie. So that's what you're looking for. If you have someone that's super nervous, then give them some encouragement. You are not only interviewing them, they're interviewing you. And people, I think, forget about that.
Absolutely.
So
They
if
should be at least. I think the people
oh
that
yeah,
are being interviewed sometimes forget you should be asking questions, and I think that's even a really good sign from the employer perspective is if somebody you're interviewing has questions for you. That's amazing. That means they're interested. That means they want to make sure it's a good fit before they waste both of your time. They're a little bit more maybe, they know the process of hiring. And so they know that's a
yeah.
good thing to be asking questions. And that just makes you look better. So from both ends, that's definitely a good thing to do. Like if you're getting interviewed, ask the interviewer questions. And what kind of questions would you like to hear from an interviewer?
I want to hear. I want them to ask about culture. So when I interview, I go over everything because I'm also being interviewed. And so I like to be super thorough. I love it when they ask about what's the culture, what's the environment like here, because that's the biggest thing that I offer to the groomers that come here and the staff that comes here is I want it to be a safe environment. Because again, most of us are neurodivergent, which is already hard on us with normal people and out in the world. So making sure that people feel comfortable. So like the biggest thing is I will talk about that. I'll say, hey, we do have a safe environment where most of us are neurodivergent. And then I start labeling all of the neurodivergent diagnoses that we have. And you can tell when someone has it because they take a deep breath and they relax,
Mm.
and I look for that because I feel that they're always on edge.
Yeah.
And when they want to look for a new job, it's already difficult enough because a lot of them don't like change. I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
I am on. I have lots of letters behind my names, lots of them. And I'm upfront with it. I'm okay. I tell them all of my diagnoses, and it puts them at ease. So just being able to talk to them like a person is important. And some of them are not going to have a ton of questions because maybe they're not in the industry. Maybe this is the second salon they're ever going to go to. So
Yeah.
I always
Yeah, they don't even
pause.
know what to ask.
Yeah, they don't know what to ask. So I just had a girl in here the other day. She was a high school student and she had one other job and it was like a summer job. And I asked, full time or part time? And she goes, part time. And I said, okay, how many hours? She goes, 25 to 30. I said, that is the wrong answer. So going forward, never say 30. And she's like, really? I said, you need to keep it under 25. I said, people will take advantage of you. The federal is if it's close to 32, 30 to 32 is considered full time. Because
Wow.
what people will do is they will try to skirt all the way up to 32 and say that you're part time so you don't get benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we even got any further, I gave her that lesson and I was like, I just want to make sure that you were informed on that. And she's like, thank you so much for telling me that. I
Yeah.
said, so I'm going to put down that you want 20 to 25 hours. Is that okay? And she goes, absolutely. Again, it's one of those rules that people just don't understand. And they're like, they want to try to throw a number out there that might sound interesting or, they'll hire me for it. And then when you get hired, oh, I can only work 5 hours.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Let's be honest with each other too. So yeah, hopefully that answered your
Yeah,
question.
I think we could probably do an entire webinar just
Oh yeah.
on hiring and getting into the details of the process of hiring.
Oh
And
yeah.
if you guys want to hear that, let us know. We'll definitely do that. We did say we're going to talk a little bit about pricing though. So let's get into that a little and maybe we'll have to have you back or like I said, we'll do just like a full on webinar and everything. But as far as pricing in relation to hiring, as I had mentioned before, you were like starting out and like, how was it that you felt okay? You said, as long as you're making, you have 6 months worth of expenses that you should be safe to hire. And that's kind of like your gauge of feeling safe and confident that hiring is okay. How do you know how much you can pay somebody? And is it in your budget as far as what you're charging the dogs? Would you increase your pricing for your dogs when you hire because you need to be making more to kind of cover someone else being there and helping and being part of the process? Or like, did you keep everything the same and you were just like, I'm taking on this extra expense? Kind of segueing into the pricing side of things that's somewhat related. How did you manage that?
All right. So it actually started before I opened. So and this is the thing I try to drill into people's heads. When you want to open a salon, you want to think of how many employees you eventually want to have. Okay. That is important because that's going to determine on how you put your outline out and how you put all your kennels and your tables and stuff like that. So if I have only one table, I have to do enough dogs in order to cover the expenses, cover my bill, and then somehow pay someone else. So if I didn't factor that in before I opened, I might be in big trouble. So I'm going to do high and low. So let's just say that all of our expenses, that includes rent, utilities, electric, all of our fixed costs are in there. Let's just say our rent and everything all combined is $10,000 a month. Okay. This is on the high end. And I only work 20 days a month. That's what we do. We work Tuesday through Saturday. That's going to equal out to $500 a day. So you're taking 10,000 divided by 20 and you're going to have 500. I'm only going to do 5 dogs a day because that's all I can do. That equals to $100 a dog. That's to keep the lights on. That's not paying me. That's not paying someone else. So you have to factor that in. Of course, a $10,000 salon is not going to be 300 square feet.
Yes.
So let's be real about that. But let's just say I had 2 tables in that $10,000 salon. That's going to be 10 dogs because let's just say a minimum of 5. That's going to be $50 per day that per dog that you're going to have to do. That's more manageable. So if you charge $100, you have 50 that's going to go towards your overhead and then $50 to pay both you, your commission, or a bather as well. So you have to look at it that way. So let's do a smaller salon. So most of the people that I see have $500 to about $2,000 is what their rent is usually. So let's just say we're going to have $500 and that's all in. That's all of your water, electric, rent, triple net, all of it. We're only going to work 20 days. That's going to be $25 per day. That's $5 per dog. That margin is way better. You have a lot of wiggle room there. And that would be an amazing, jumping off point for people. So that's kind of what you need to do math wise. So in order to work for me, you have to do a minimum of 5 dogs, because I have already calculated each one of my tables on how much they need to bring in for us to be profitable, for us to be able to give these, extra bonuses or extra benefits, stuff like that. So that's what you need to do. You have to have a minimum per table. Now, if you have a power groomer that can do 13, then that's great, but you might need to have 2 bathers for that power groomer.
Yeah.
So instead of just paying one person, which you might break even at 7 dogs, paying that other person. So now you need that bather to do at least 3 dogs, because then they pay for themselves. Now you actually make money on that groomer. But if they're doing more dogs, you need to get another bather, because they're not going to be able to do 13 dogs plus their 3 dogs. That's 16. Does that make sense?
It's a lot of math, and I think
a lot of
people
math.
need to take notes. There's
Yes.
I want to have you look at it too. We have a calculator on our member dashboard for our members that are not aware of this. It's under the business tools section, and there's one for like a salon, and there's one for a mobile grooming, and it helps to kind of baseline, get an idea of like, there's expenses that you have to fill out and all of the things to try to figure out like what your minimum should be on pricing a dog. And I think we're going to build that out also. I believe there's not one for employees, like if you are including employees in there. So we'll work with you on the math on that and get the form working.
Yeah, I have one. I already have a form already made.
Nice.
I have it. It's
I'll have to get with you on that.
Yeah, weekly numbers. And you just plug everything in and you put in everyone's pricing and you can play with it. And it can tell you like how much you just put in your flat cost. You put in all your numbers and it will figure everything out for you.
That's nice.
It's very helpful. It's very helpful. So we do it as far as like, we want to break even, and then we want them to do a little bit more. And then we have money to buy another, hire another bather. And then we just keep doing that. You could just keep stacking your people. So that's one method of doing it. If you want to do one-on-one, it's going to be a little different, because you're only going to be able to do so many dogs if you're doing one-on-one, and that's fine. But you had better be charging a premium for that.
Yes.
Because I'm only exclusively working on your dog. And if you don't show up, I have nothing to do for 2 hours or whatever your time frame is for that.
Yes.
We do block scheduling. So we'll have, 3 dogs or however many dogs coming in our first schedule. 3 hours later, we have more. And then 2 hours later, we have more. So even if someone doesn't show up, I still have dogs to work on. So it doesn't stop my productivity. But there, those are 2 different models that you can do. But if you are a one-on-one service, you best be charging more.
Absolutely. It's almost like mobile.
Yeah.
It's
exactly
mobile slightly, higher because they're coming to your doorstep. So that's obviously an extra premium. But the one-on-one service is absolutely a premium service and should be priced as such, according to like, if you were bringing in more dogs, you would be making more money. So, and you need to make up for that somehow. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the other thing that I see that people do is they price their big dogs close to what their small dogs are. You almost want, in ideal world, you want the big dogs to be double the price as a small one. Because if you can do 2 small ones the same time that you can do a big one, then why in the world would you continue to do big dogs?
Yeah, I've come to the conclusion that the tiny dogs should cost just as much as the big dogs, and the medium dogs are where that price break comes in, because it's almost harder sometimes to groom the tiny itty bitty dogs as it is to groom the really big dogs. You're kind of like on both ends of the spectrum on that one. But yeah, there should be obvious price differences for different things as far as pricing goes when you get into how to explain your pricing model and how you figure out a price for a groom for a client.
All right. So we increase our prices yearly. So our people get a raise every year because the ticket is more.
Mm-hmm.
Our doodles are actually by weight.
Okay. So you got a scale.
We got a scale. And we are going to be rolling that out for all doodles
Mm-hmm.
because there is
But just doodles.
Just doodles. We're going to be doing it. So if we have like a golden retriever that's 100 pounds overweight, then this is going to apply to them, kind of thing. Because if they're morbidly obese, it makes it a lot more difficult. There's more surface area. There's more wear and tear on your equipment, more wear and tear on your back. So it's important to be able to charge for that. And it shouldn't just be $5. It needs to be more than that. So we have mini, micro, mid-size, standard, giant, and XL when it comes to our doodles. And our smaller ones, there is a smaller between each one because, a couple pounds on a small dog makes a huge difference. When we rolled out with this, some of our customers were a little hesitant, a little angry, but it's just like, look, there's no standard when it comes to the golden doodle. We have no idea when they walk through the door what we're getting. You could say
a box of chocolates.
Yeah. It's like I am supposed to have a mini and I have 100-pound standard come in.
Yeah.
Like, no. So we put them on the scale. The owners can see, the weight. And the thing is we'll weigh them every time. If you lose weight, you get to go down a price.
Fair.
If they gain it, they go back up.
Also fair.
And we've gotten some people to actually get weight off of their dogs. So we're actually doing, two birds with one stone here because we're getting the dogs in a healthier weight. So if you want to argue about how much you're going to pay, let's, go to the scale. If you're
you're a by weight only for doodles.
Yes.
And the weight has ranges. You have these different names for the sizes, and that's just a cut and dry thing for doodles. What if they have 4 inches of hair compared to like a shave down?
So there's a hand scissoring fee. Most people aren't going to keep the 4 inches of hair. Most of those are going to be our show dogs. Our show dogs usually start at $250, or actually, I'm sorry, they just went up to $264 now, for a show dog. So, because I have to spend more time on them, I need to prep them the correct way.
So you get there's a fee for hand scissoring, and that's how it kind of differentiates a styled groom versus a clippered groom. That's also fair. I think that's a pretty good way to just kind of keep it all in and understandable by the client. What about non-doodles? How are you pricing?
So those are all by breed. So each one, so most of our small dogs, your Shih Tzus, your Lhasas, stuff like that, they're going to be about the same. And if they're different, it's going to be like $1 or $2. Because sometimes you have a harder coat on some of them are going to have longer coat than others. So that's going to make a difference. But again, it's only $1 or $2 for those because they're basically the same. If we have a dog that is overweight, you get a handling fee. So that makes the difference when you have a dog that is 20 pounds overweight. Because that's, again, more surface area, that's more to clip, that's usually the dog won't stand up. So we can have a scissoring fee and a handling fee on that.
And that handling fee, does that also cover like bad dogs as far as, you're just a pain in the ass to groom and we need to take extra time with you, or senior dogs where that's just an overall handling fee for all of the extras that we don't know about. This is our fee. How do you know kind of like what to charge for that?
So it starts at 25 and goes up. So it's a sliding scale. Okay. So if we have, so I work on like a ton of terriers. That's my favorite thing to do. And I always say, if it's not trying to eat me, I don't want to groom it. And I do some really aggressive dogs. That's what I'm known for. So I will.
And that's how you started at PetSmart. So that makes sense. That carried on through.
Yep. So, and I was a dog trainer too.
Hmm.
So like, I understand this. Um, my rule for my clients is if that dog nails me, you get charged the
Yeah.
handling fee
Hmm.
because I take on those aggressive dogs. I work
Yeah.
with them. If they're being excessively and it's really impeding me, then I'll charge them. But the rules for mine, you make contact, you get charged. Now for my other groomers, I make them if they're having a hard time, they are allowed to do it. But me personally, because I choose to take on those cases,
Yeah.
um, and that's what I'm really good at. That's how I do it, unless they're just
Hmm.
being excessively bad, and then I'll
Yeah.
charge it. But yeah, you make contact with me. I
Case
don't
by
care.
case basis. Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that rule. That's like if for somebody that is, like that you're experienced in this and this is what they're coming for, it's hard to say like, oh, I'm going to charge you for this because it's what I do.
yeah,
But yeah, that like, if you nail me, you get charged. That's
yep.
fair enough, I think.
Yeah, so my clients know they usually get a hot chili pepper when I text them, and I'll say, Zelda is all done with the hot chili pepper, and they're like, "Dang it,
Damn. Was a spicy one today.
it's a spicy," and they know they're getting charged.
Uh,
You see that hot chili pepper, you're getting charged a handling
but
fee.
as long as you're communicating with the clients
Yeah,
and they understand what the risks are and what they could
yeah.
potentially be charged for, I'm sure you also have like dematting fees, things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
I'm sure
per
you got a
minute.
fee for all of it.
Oh yeah, we charge a. I don't care if it's light matting and I have to go down a blade. You're getting charged $20 for that. And it goes up depending on how matted it is. And that's a
Hmm.
shave down fee. That's on top of the full haircut fee.
You should be able to buy a new blade.
Yep. Well, I mean, I have some that go all the way up to 100. So your
Okay,
dog
well,
is like 250.
let's at
Oh
least
yeah.
get some sharpening in there. Like you need to
Yeah.
know that, yeah, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it's going to be a wear and
Well,
tear
and
on that
even
plus the
sharpening
time.
blades. Yeah,
Yeah.
sharpening blades is getting expensive too,
Yeah.
almost to the point where you get it sharpened twice, you could just get a new blade,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Well,
But
a lot of people aren't even sharpening their blades.
no,
I know Pina doesn't sharpen her blade. She's like, I've never sharpened a blade in my life. There's just no
buy new
point.
ones. Just buy
Yeah,
new ones.
there's no
Um,
point.
but we also charge $1.85 a minute for dematting.
Okay.
So we
So do you
have
got like a stopwatch and you're like, all
yep,
right, we're starting,
yep,
boom, and here goes the clock, and we're just going to
yep.
go, and however long it takes, it takes. Do they be like, oh, is there like a limit? Can I
So yeah,
stop it at a certain
we
point?
talk to the owners. We talk to the owners. We also have like a demat conditioner, depending on the type of matting, and it's really
Hmm.
important for groomers to understand. There are some coats that you can demat. There are some kind of mats that can be brushed out.
Just to
Um,
plug the webinar real quick, we have a course with Annette Andrews called Naughty by Nature, and she goes from like that very simple matting and how you can get them out easily. Sometimes you don't even have to touch it with a brush, and it's just like the blow dryer can get it out, all the way down, everything in between, all the way up to the point where it's like, we're not dematting
yep.
this. And there is a line that you draw and you just let them know. But I mean, you should get a feel eventually. I mean, every case is different, right? But you should be able to look at it and kind of give them a estimate of time. Like,
Yeah.
I think this is going to take this much time. It could take more. That communication, again, super important, kind of explaining to them, I can't guarantee that it's going to take this much time, but if you're not comfortable with that, like,
Well, you
just
always
don't
add
do
time.
it.
So we always add 20 minutes.
Okay.
So if I think it's going to take
Buffer
30
it.
minutes, I'm going to tell you 50.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how the dog's going to react. I don't know if taking off that vest, I'm going to find more.
Yeah.
So it's always a good
Absolutely.
idea to make sure that
Under
you're
promise
amicable.
and over deliver.
Exactly. And then they're super happy at the end.
Yes.
But like our big thing is if we can't see skin, we shaven. We go shavy. No, if it's pelted,
Yeah.
even if it's just in certain areas, I'm sorry, we're not going to be dematting that. That's just torture.
Yeah. There's got to be a limit at a certain point where you're not dematting. But if it is dematable, we're charging for that. There's a fee.
Oh yeah.
It was funny because the whole pooping on the table thing came up on a recent post that we did. And I'm curious if you have a potty fee.
We do.
You have a potty fee. I'm not surprised.
We have a rebathing fee.
Okay,
So
there you go.
we don't like if they poop on the table. That's one thing. If it's explosive diarrhea and it's numerous times, then you're going to get a cleanup fee.
Yes.
But we do have a rewash fee.
Yeah, that's important. You need to have all of these fees for sure. You got to cover all the bases, and that's great advice to have all of the fees. I know everybody has like different ways to price things. I like the doodles having weight. You know, if you do your business and you get into a point where it's like, we need to like adjust this, that's what you have to do. It's you got to figure out what works for your business. Maybe that's not right for somebody else, but I do we have people saying that we need to get a scale for my salon in here. Like it's time. I have a question for you.
It's the easiest way to up their prices too, because they can't argue.
Well, there's nothing to hide. Yeah. I mean, they could tell you over the phone as a new client, and you can be like, well, we have a scale. We'll weigh them when they get here. What are you going to say? Like the weight, I mean, you know, doodles are one thing. I think it's really hard probably to go by weight for other breeds. They could be different, you know, like Yorkies can range from like a 3 pound to like a 30-pound beast of a Yorkie.
Yeah, but the 30 pounds should not be charged the same as the 3 pounds.
Exactly.
That's the thing. And that's where the handling fee comes in, because it's like
you're overweight.
You are overweight, you're probably too tall or whatever it is. You're no longer that set. So we're going off of AKC sizes. We're not going off of backyard breeders. So again, that's where you can throw in that handling fee where it's like, hey, you're overweight. You know, I've had a golden retriever that was over 100 pounds overweight, and the dog couldn't even walk in. And mom just laughed, and I put the dog on the scale, and I was like, well, that's going to now be like $200 for you.
Yeah.
And she was like, what? I was like, no, this dog can't stand. So someone has to hoist it up the entire time in the tub while drying, while being groomed. Like this. This
There's a reason you're not grooming your dog yourself.
Yeah.
And you're here.
Yeah. And people need to start, like, I understand like if it's a pound or two overweight where AKC is, but like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the morbid obese. You need to have a price for that.
Yeah. And so there's where all the fees come in. You need to be able to easily adjust your pricing and give a reason for it, so that they're not just like, oh, I'm not just like pulling a number out of thin air as far as how much to charge you for your dog. Like it's got to come from somewhere. I know a lot of people go by time and they just charge hourly. And so that's always an option, but it's like, for me, I am not a fan of hourly charging, because if I'm a quick groomer, I'm going to be punished because I'm fast and good at what I do. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. So it's good to like have an hourly idea in your head of like what you want to make hourly, but don't tell the client. Like I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm charging you this much because it's going to probably take me 2 hours. But if it takes me an hour, then, you know, like I'm punished for that. Like, no, you give them that price, and whether it takes you 2 hours or not, that's just what the price is. But just more of a way for people to gauge their prices. But yeah, I'm not a fan of hourly pricing by any means.
No, well, because you can't upsell anything.
Yeah,
so
that too.
That's the
You're kind of just stuck with it.
Yeah, I hate about like all inclusive. It's great for your clients because you're giving them a value, but you can never bring in additional money. You know, we do have these add-ons where it's like some of them are as low as $5. That's the DMAT conditioner. And then we have a la carte, which is $8. And then we have packages, which is a little bit cheaper because some people just want one or two things. And then you make more money off of them because 2 of those is gonna be $16. But if you get the package that has 3, it's $15.
Yeah.
You know, so
it's got to be right for the business too. A lot of people they do all inclusive because they're like, I'm just tired of people. They did it regular for a while with the add-ons, and people are like, people just don't care enough to pay for the extra thing that their dog actually needs. Yeah. So I just give up, and I'm just gonna do all inclusive because I want to give the dogs what they need and people don't seem to care. So it probably depends on your clientele, your location, like
But
the
that
type,
should also
just
be more expensive. That should
yeah.
be more expensive. And
All
I see
inclusive.
that
Yeah. I mean, you're building, it's like you're building the add-ins already into the
yeah.
pricing essentially. And they're paying a premium service to get everything, even if they don't need it. So it's just one way or the other. You're going to charge for it. They're just either going to pay it up front or add it on if they feel like it.
But there's people that don't. That's what I'm getting at is if you're going to be all inclusive, then you need to look at it as, I'm going to be charging this, and this for each one. So you would take your pricings and then add all of those add-ons. And then, what about the D-sheds and stuff like that? So if you're pricing it correctly, then it's fine. But I see so many people that are like, I just don't want to fight with the owners. I just want to do what's best for the dog. And it's just be all inclusive.
Yeah.
Well, then you're going to be
charge more.
Yeah, just charge more. So if you're going to do that, then that's great. So every client should be walking
and promote
out.
it. Yeah. Like if you're all inclusive, you're going to charge more, but you also have to promote the fact that it's all inclusive and a premium service. There's a question, I believe. We have a few questions, but we'll get this one first.
I thought this was a good time to ask it. How much is your annual price increase? So I guess going into increasing prices.
You guys are like a percentage?
So sometimes I do. So a lot of times we do 3 to 5%. During COVID, I bumped everything up $20 because it was awful. We got shut down. I was able to get Ohio back up because I did a meeting with the governor to voice our concerns as groomers, and he listened and he let us open. I had 1,700 phone calls, emails, and text messages to get through.
Wow.
So we finally opened back up. I mean, I was like grooming all day long. And then I was up until 11 o'clock at night contacting people. And people are like, why are you contacting me? So like, I was like, I don't have time. Like, do you either want me to get your dog in or not? And they're like, yes, please. And so, and then of course we got all the doodles that were COVID doodles. And so we upped it $20 across the board. But about 5% is pretty good. Depending each year, I don't raise everything. I will choose like just the baths, maybe the comb out and eatons and the full haircut. So comb out and eaton is just like they don't need anything off, just kind of clean everything up. I will never do baths plus Furminator or like a D-shed, because that's a double whammy. So if you increase it 5% or even 10%, then you're increasing it 20% because you're doing both of them. So I kind of go in there and look to see, who do we have the most of? Are we doing more full grooms? Are we doing more cleanups? And I use 1-2-3 Pets or what is it called now? Day Smart. And it will break that down. So does Square. Square will also break it down for me as well. So I can look to see, okay, if I increase this, how much more revenue am I going to get?
Yeah.
So I might just increase all the big dogs. I might increase everything across the board for all big dogs because I want the bigger dogs to be a little bit farther from the small dogs. So I don't normally do across the board price increases because if I did that, I'd price myself out of the market. I'm already the most expensive in the area. Yeah. So I have to be careful, but I also have people, banging down my door trying to get in. Because they know that we're good.
If they still want you, then it's not expensive enough, right?
It's okay. It is okay to lose clients to a pay increase.
Yeah.
Like so many people are so worried. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose all my clients. You know what we do when we increase prices? I have a check-in sheet and I say, okay, Fluffy's getting today, comb out and eaten. This is how much it's going to be. We're going to do a teeth brushing this, and then your total's here. And you sign. I don't say anything about, oh, by the way, we've increased prices. Because you know what that does? That gives them anxiety. Because I used to do that. Yeah. And we would be like, we'd post it everywhere. It'd be in your text message. The only time that we did do that was when it went up $20. And we put that in the text message because we knew people were going to freak out on that. But people would get so upset and they're like, how much did it go up? I was like, $1. And they're like, that's it. And this was years ago. This was years ago.
Yeah.
Or it went up $3, and they're like, "Why did you tell me?"
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I thought that's what I had to do. No,
Yeah.
you just simply and for the people that say, "Well, you should have informed me before," and I was like, "Well, I'm informing you right now before I take the dog back." So this isn't when you're picking up. This is when you're checking the dog in. You tell them the total. That's it. And if they say, "Oh, did your prices go up?" and then, "Yep, they did. They go up every single year." Because I'm sorry, I don't remember ever receiving a text message or an email, a phone call, or even skyscrape, lettering to tell me that McDonald's no longer has the dollar menu and my beloved whatever is no longer $1, it's $1.25.
You show up and that's the price.
Yes. Like you see it on the list. No one's going to inform you.
My internet went up like 4 times in the past couple years, and they don't bother to even say anything, and they'll just bill you. You just get the bill, and it's like, okay, that's what it is. And then
so the biggest thing
you already have the service.
Yeah. You just
so it's worse in that situation.
This is your total. Yeah, so many people put so much anxiety and how am I supposed to tell my clients and this? If you have an email list that you email them all the time, or we used to have this monthly newsletter we would put out. We would put it on that. But how many people are really looking at it? I mean, our open rate was pretty good. It was about 80%. But
nice.
I could send them stuff and they still wouldn't read it or understand it or whatever.
People don't read.
They just come in and are like, I was never told. Well, I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, so you can choose to go ahead or leave, up to you. I'm definitely torn on the price increase announcement, just because I feel like the dog grooming is just such it's such a small business, and people are expecting a certain price every time. But it's kind of also if you get there and your dog's 10 more pounds, that also is going to change things. Yeah.
But that's also the policy.
Yeah.
So with us, we tell them, this is your price range right now. If you lose weight or gain weight, you're going to go up to this. So we explain it. And what happens.
You can also explain to them, we also do a price increase every year. As a new client, I just want you to know this, just to expect it. We don't announce it. It will happen every year in November, and just to expect that. And they'll be like, okay.
Yeah. And
just
some people are like, oh yeah, it did go up, didn't it? It was just, it did. So you got to train your clients. But the thing is if you only see 5 dogs a day, if you want to make an announcement, then go right ahead.
If it's right for your business and you feel like you have that kind of communication with your clients and want to let them know and give them a heads up, that's fine. But it's not necessary. There's no rule that says you have to let them know that prices increased by a couple bucks. But like you said, that $20 is a lot. That's a nice heads up, but if it's $5, if they're going to cry over $5, it's like, okay, bye. Sorry, you're not the type of client I want. Exactly. But let me get a couple of these questions answered before we head off and decide when we're going to do a webinar with you at some point. But we got a lot to cover. Somebody wants to know, is a bather prepper worth it? If you're just going to hire a bather prepper.
Oh my gosh, weight in gold. So the way that we have our model done, so my first hire was a bather prepper, and she also did the phone. You have to think of, so many people think I have to hire a groomer first. No, you hire a bather, someone that can bathe and prep. Someone can help answer the phones, because then you can focus on doing the haircuts. So you're going to be bringing in more money for your business and yourself. That is then going to give you more of a buffer to be able to hire another groomer, and then another bather, maybe a front staff person. So if you are not making ends meet, don't hire a groomer.
Yeah.
Because whatever commission rate you give is what's out the door. Okay. So many people make that mistake. Get yourself a bather first. Train them from the ground up. Try not to do it when you have zero time to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
the perfect time to hire a new hire is actually January through March, because it's our slow season. And of course, the worst time is the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, don't do that. Prepare in advance for that.
Um, so you kind of want to stay away from like the holidays trying to hire
Yeah.
someone, because you're not going to get training. But that first hire needs to be a bather, because you can, if you're going from 5 dogs to 10 dogs, I mean, look at that. You're going to be making so much more money going to the business, or being able to pay for people that don't bring in any money. So that could be you're going to hire a bather, and then you're going to hire a front staff person. So they're
That
going
leads to the
handle that.
next question, which is how would you factor in a receptionist since they don't make the business money?
Okay. So again, it depends on how you're doing this. Are you one-on-one? This doesn't work if you are one-on-one. Okay. It only works when you are doing multiple dogs at one time. So you're
Mm-hmm.
block scheduling. Because the bather's not going to do anything for you if you have to get that dog done in an hour. So it's not like you can be working on a dog and your bather can be working on a dog. So usually we come in and I'll do my first dog or two and I'll bathe it and prep it. They come in, they're doing my other dogs. So I can finish those dogs that I did. She can feed me more dogs and I can just continue to cut hair. But then I can add, so if I have a bather, I hate doing this, but I can do 18. The most
my
I've ever done
gosh.
is 23.
Wow.
I don't want to do 18
Yeah.
for the rest of my career. But that's 4 groomers worth of work there. So what
Mm-hmm.
I can do is I can hire a groomer and slide off some of those dogs to them. So I would always take on more dogs. So I would have the business. So when that groomer came, I could just slide 5 dogs to him, just like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I hire. I would just take on more and then slide them over, come back down to like 7 or 8. And then when I needed to hire more, I would, ramp up again, slide them over. So they
Yeah.
automatically were booked. Not everyone can do that, but you also need a bather to do it.
Yeah. So someone said, I recently left a salon to go out on my own. What is the best way to market? Which we've kind of already went through in the beginning. So I'm going to just tell them to go rewatch the very beginning of this live. And we went over a lot of marketing ideas and some really good ones at that. And what is your opinion are the must-haves in place for solo grooming business prior to seeing clients, liability wise?
Get yourself an LLC. Okay. A lot of people, I mean, like it costs like $150, something like that. You can do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be a sole proprietor, because that opens you up to lawsuits, where if you injure a dog, the owner can actually go after you and your assets, like your home, your car, everything else like that. It doesn't protect you. An LLC is going to be, this is the entire entity. You can only sue the entity. You can't sue the owner operator behind it.
And you should absolutely have insurance also.
Yes, insurance. And I was going to get into that. But the very first thing is you have to have an LLC before you go and get insurance, because they're going to want to have that EIN number, which is your federal tax ID. So
that
a lot
allows
of
you to get the bank account as well, which we did an accounting webinar, so I would definitely recommend checking that out if you have no idea what we're talking about, or are just getting into this to know like what you should be doing as far as setting up your business. But you got to have separate bank accounts for accounting, all of those things, not liability, but important.
Yeah. So the LLC is like the gateway to everything. You need to have that because you need the number. Then when you go and get the lease, you have to put the lease in the LLC, because if it fails, that leasing company can only come after the assets of the business, not yourself, unless you are putting that up for a lien to your loan or whatever. If you need to go to the bank, you need that EIN number to open a business account. You need to have maybe a line of credit from them. Some of them will give you a line of credit like $25,000 or something like that, and it's flexible how you use it and how you pay it back.
I heard it's supposed to be much easier to get one now. Like they've changed some things, and you don't even have to show proof of income for businesses to get lines of credit now. So things are looking up for that.
That's good.
Yeah.
SBA loan, if you need that,
Mhm.
you're going to need that EIN number. When you go for insurance, most landlords are going to require a certain level of interest, and that's going to be the amount that it's going to build the entire building back up to. You're also going to want to make sure that you have the liability for the dogs. Most
Yes.
insurance companies will not take care of the dog. So if you injure the dog, they're not going to take care of it.
Mhm.
So I use governors because they are pet related. They
Mhm.
understand what I need. They understand that I need the dog to be property. And that's a big one. You can only get the amount of property if, like, heaven forbid, a dog pass away. You can only get the property value of that dog. Hopefully that would never happen.
Yeah.
But there are things that insurance companies are good at, and there's things that insurance companies are really bad at. And you don't want to find that out when you need them the most. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, you
Do
don't want to
not
find,
wait to get it
yeah,
for when you need it. You need to get it
I mean,
beforehand.
so what I'm talking about is, like, maybe State Farm gives you like a great deal on something,
Mhm.
but then you injure a dog and they're like, well, we don't pay that. And they're like, what do you mean? I've been paying you this. And we're like, well, if someone crashes a car through your front window, we'll take care of that. But if you injure a dog,
Yeah.
we're not doing that. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like,
make sure you
you
have the
need
right
to know
coverage.
you have the right type of coverage.
Mhm.
Um, Another thing, of course, workman's comp. Get yourself a lawyer. Okay. Um, have it on payroll. And what I mean by that is they're going to help navigate your LLC stuff. They're going to navigate any of your paperwork that you need any of your clients to sign. Everything needs to be official. If you can't afford a lawyer, then buy paperwork from someone that has already had that. So
Mhm.
that is something I do. I've had my lawyer go through all of my paperwork. So we have these like dematted pet release forms and stuff like that that a lawyer has already gone through.
Yeah.
Um, that is going to cover your butt. You can't just write a piece of paper saying, I will not be sued if I cut your dog. Like that's just not going to cover it.
Yeah.
So having the proper paperwork to give to your owners, your matted pet release, your elderly dogs, your young puppies, your coloring, any of those, it's going to be a liability. Make sure you have yourself covered before you open, because it could be your very first dog that
Mhm.
gives you trouble. Um,
Yeah, just make
Probably,
it part of the system of onboarding a new
yeah,
client. This is what you sign. If there's these special
yep,
cases, here are these other things you need to sign. Like it's just part of the system of how you do business from
yeah.
day
So I
one.
mean, those are like the biggest things. If you can afford a CPA and a bookkeeper, I would do that. Um, if you're good with numbers, then you might be able to get away with it without getting one of those people by using like QuickBooks Online.
Yeah.
But really learning how to do your books is really important.
Even if you
I
have
got
someone just like set it up initially and then you take
Yep.
over, as long as you know at least it was set up correctly and you have the correct categories on things, that at least alleviates some of the
Yeah.
work initially.
So like the one thing I hated when I first opened is I had to keep sending checks, individual checks to all these different entities because again, I've been with Gusto the entire time. It was what was it? It was called Zen Payroll before, and we waited until they were able to operate in Ohio, so they didn't have all the bells and whistles that they do now. But I had to write out checks, and I had to know the addresses monthly and quarterly. And oh my gosh, I hated doing it. They would be like, "Here's your little thing. You have to send this out." I just want this automated. So finding a payroll company that will do it for you, uh, oh my gosh, astronomical. I hate writing checks.
Yeah.
I just want to see it on a report and say that it was paid for. So
These
getting that
business
taken
owners
care of.
don't know how good they have it these days with all this automation.
No, no,
They
they
have
don't.
no idea. You guys are so spoiled.
Yes, but like that's
All
a
the
big
booking
one.
softwares,
Oh my
everything they
gosh,
have now,
yes.
it's like such a different world.
And then so recently in Ohio they changed the commercial activity tax. Now it's like you have to, I think it's like 3 million now that you have to pay. A percentage.
Mhm.
Up to 3 million, or like 2,999,000. You pay $150 for the privilege. And literally, it says the privilege on their website of owning a business in Ohio. So
my
you need
God.
to make sure. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then if it was over $1 million before, you had to do a percentage of your gross,
Wow.
not net, gross.
Wow.
So that has now changed to 3 million. So making sure that you are covering any of these commercial taxes in these other states.
Yeah.
So if you're doing under 150,000, you didn't have to pay anything in Ohio. But once you hit that 150, you then had to pay $150, which is nothing. But you don't want to be caught with your pants down, basically, and not
Yeah.
know that that's something you have to pay for. So a CPA is going to help navigate those as well. So if you're expecting a huge shop, make sure that you're looking into all the laws.
Yeah. So many laws to look into. It's like not easy being a business owner. Think twice about it before you hop into
Yep.
doing that, for sure. Okay, another question. Should you pay hourly or commission for employees?
So that really depends on what state you're in. So in California, you must pay an hourly wage. You can do a bonus. It really comes down to how do you run your business. I prefer commission because there's more incentive. We also offer a bather to help make more money for you. But it really comes down to, are you going to be paying $15 an hour, or are you going to be paying $40 an hour? So that's really what it comes down to. Because if you're going to say, oh, I'm going to pay hourly and I'm only going to pay $11.50 an hour, I would never work for you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing, talking to groomers. When you say, hey, I'm going to pay an hourly wage, they're thinking really low. No different from them coming from a corporate situation or an illegal 1099 where they're like, hey, I'm getting paid 50%. Well, you're paying 25 of that to the government at the end of the year. So
They
you
just
really
don't
only
even
get-
realize.
They don't. And they're only really getting paid 25%, but they're also not getting workman's comp. They're not getting any other benefits.
And they're paying the portion of the taxes that the employer should be paying.
Yep. So
And
I mean,
just ignorance of law and taxes and employment, everything that goes into that. They're getting taken advantage. They feel like they're making so much more money and just have no idea that it's coming out of different areas.
Yeah. At the end of the year, they get hit with this huge tax bill, and it's a wake up call. Or they're illegally doing their taxes, and then the IRS finds out, and then they can go to jail. So let's just not do that. So when
Agreed.
It's just kind of a loaded question.
Gosh.
So like if you're going to
And then there's like that one person that it might be okay for, and they say it's okay in their state, which I've pretty much been confirmed that's not the case, where if you are a grooming salon and you are hiring groomers as 1099, it doesn't work. You can't do the same job that the business does as their main service. Like if it's a vet, you might be able to get away with it because they're not doing grooming as their main service. But if you are doing grooming as your main service, you can't hire a groomer as a contractor. It just doesn't work that way. So,
doing it that way, you really need to be a booth rental. And even booth renters are not allowed in every state.
You're so good at this segue thing. And what do you think of booth rental style salons?
So there can be pros and cons to it. So let's take salon lofts, because that, a lot of people know what that is. Salon lofts is going to have a variety of businesses in there. You're going to have hairstylists, you're going to have massage therapists, you could have stylists, whatever. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a key to the salon. You have to have your own payment method. You need to be able to have access to that time at any time. They can't tell you when you have to be there. They can't tell you what your prices are. You pay a set rent. It could be $500. Now, they can charge like an advertisement fee. So if they're advertising salon lofts, come find your stylist or whatever, you can be charged that. That is a reasonable fee to be charged. They could charge you a renovation fee, because that's what I get too. When they redo the parking lot, I get charged that. When they redo the roof, I get charged that. So there are things that they can charge, but they can't take a commission portion out of your sales. That's a big red flag. So if
You
I'm
should be
paying,
like your own operating business.
yes, you
Even
need
with
to
the
have your
tools and
own
equipment
insurance.
and products and everything, you need to be providing everything for yourself. Your own insurance, you said.
Yeah, own insurance, own phone number, own website, own everything.
Mm-hmm.
You can take your clients because the clients are yours. I'm paying you a set fee. I have a contracted, maybe it's a 12-month contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a set $500 every
Yeah.
month, and maybe incidentals like I said, advertisement for the salon, like
Mm-hmm.
salon lofts, but for the most
I
part,
compare it to like those office spaces you can rent, like the Gieczys office spaces where it's like, I just need a space. I'm going to give you money and I'm going to run my business out of here. And they'll put your name up on the plaque as like, this office is located here. And you have the long list of all the different businesses that are running out of this office space and what, room number they're in. Same idea.
Exactly. Everything should be under you. But they should never touch your sales.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that
all they can do is receive your mail. That's it.
Yeah. They can tell you where, your space is for your clients and stuff. And if you leave that facility, you take your clients because they are yours. So, and even booth rentals are illegal in some states, but that is the only way that you could have your own entity within an entity.
Mm-hmm.
And there are rules about that someone that is doing that can't have, say, a salon and then have, say, 2 or 3 groomers and then 5 booth renters. You can't have that.
You can't have both.
No, you have to be all booth renters, and the owner cannot be doing the same service. So that's pretty across the board for most of that. I don't know of any states that will allow you to do a booth renter and have your own business as the owner.
Yeah.
So this has to be strictly a renting thing.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. A landlord.
No, yeah, totally.
You're a landlord and that's it.
Absolutely.
Now you can have communal areas. So you could have like a wash area, just like some of those office spaces, they'll have like a communal break room.
Yeah, like the kitchen space and
the kitchen
little
space.
meeting areas.
Bathrooms too. You might not have a bathroom in each one of your things. So there's going to be communal areas. So there could be a fee to stock that. Again, that is understandable. Let's just say out of that $500, you pay $20 to toiletries or something like that, because you're all using it. That is a reasonable expense because it is a communal area. I pay that in my triple net. So we have a communal area about has like 3 benches out there. There's like a nice sitting area. We have to pay to upkeep that.
Yeah.
That is a reasonable expense, but 50% of my sales is not. That's an illegal 1099.
Yes, it is. Going back to, I guess you were talking about the prepper or the bathers you have. Somebody asked, so do they prep all those dogs for you? So 16 of said 18 dogs they prep in 8-hour day.
So when I was doing 18 dogs, I had 3 bathers because they couldn't keep up with me.
Yeah. So I mean, they can only do as much as they can do, right? So
yes. I would never expect one of my bathers to do that many for me, because I also am not doing small dogs. I'm doing a ton of big dogs. I'm doing these doodles. I'm doing a lot of terriers. I'm doing a lot of hand scissors. So when I was doing 18 dogs, I had 3 bathers.
Okay.
But I'm also doing 4 groomers worth of work.
Yeah.
You have to think of that. And
so
it
just depends on how many dogs you got.
Exactly. When you hire a bather, you're lucky if they can do 3 or 4, to be honest, when they're starting off. And it usually takes them a couple months to be able to get to
have
5
a little patience. They got to get into a rhythm.
I always tell people, if you can get 3 dogs done for me, I'm ecstatic. Because I had someone that wanted to break into the industry, and she, like, the whole time she was here, she was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I'm not, like, I'm putting you behind. And I was like, look, you've never done this before. And I want to teach you the right way. And I want you to learn the right way. Speed will come with this. And that's something salon owners need to take in consideration when they're hiring people. You are not going to get a rock star right out of the gate. It's not going to happen. And if you expect that, they're going to quit really quickly. I want you to focus on doing 3 dogs, just 3. And then I want you to do 4. And then I want you to do 5. And as you start adding those dogs, it's like you're going to hit a wall at some point, and then all of a sudden things are going to click and you're going to add 2 more dogs. It's no different from a groomer when they hit that wall, when they do 5, in an 8-hour shift. Then being able to get to 7, but that 8th one is super easy. Because it is. They have certain walls that they hit. And it's a lot to do with time management. It has to do with using your tools right, being able to manage those dogs in an efficient time to get them all done. And once you figure it out at 7 dogs, I'm serious. It just, that 8th one is easy. That 9th one, that 10th one.
And then you're doing 18 before you know it.
You're doing 18. Don't do that. Don't do that. But I would prefer to do 6 to 8. Is
that's
my
the sweet spot.
Because I'm able to still manage. I teach everyone. So everyone that comes in,
because you're not just grooming dogs.
I'm not just. I'm interviewing. Again, I have that 2.5 hours every morning where I have to do administrative things. I have to do talks to people if they want to talk to me, or I'm teaching maybe a new manager, or maybe I have 2 new managers, or maybe I have a couple new groomers. So I want to take that time to be able to focus on them. So 6 to 8 is my sweet spot, because I can still get them done, still be able to run the salons, 2 massive salons, and that's what works for me. If I'm not doing any of that, then I can do 18 dogs and I'll be fine. Yeah. But I'm always saying, Misty, and I'm like, what is it? What do you need? And I've got all these dogs to do. So don't think that you have to do that as a business owner, that you have to do that many dogs. It's whatever is your sweet spot to be able to still bring in money for you to live on. Like, I'm on salary, and that's a big one too. Like, a lot of people, when they start off, they're like, should I pay myself? Should I pay commission? Should I pay salary? How about we look to see how much you need to live? Let's pay yourself that salary. And then anything else goes into an owner's draw. When we go into that, we want to be taxed as an S corp. So we're an LLC.
We'll get into that when we go into a webinar. I think that S corp is important. Yeah, that's a special one, and definitely depends on the business. But there is like a certain point that you hit where it makes sense to move from being taxed as an LLC to being taxed as an S corp. You don't turn into an S corp. You're still an LLC. No. You're just taxing as an S corp. But that is, that's getting a little more complicated. And I think we got a lot to talk about on that for sure. We can make sure we get that education out there, because that's not something that is little known, not well known enough. I think it's getting to be more well known with the more education that's getting out there. But people don't even know what an S corp is, or why you should be doing it, and what the benefits are of it. So we will stay tuned for that one. We'll get into that for sure.
Yeah, but that's where you would pay yourself. Like you would go that route, and then you can give yourself a raise if you're doing good at the end of the year, and you're seeing, record profits. Then give yourself a raise. And, just chip away at it, because that's like a big question I get all the time is, how do I pay myself?
Yeah, it's hard.
How much do you need to live?
That's a webinar right there. How do I pay myself? Okay, just to kind of finish things up, somebody said in my state they recently took away LLC protections, so many don't go that way anymore. That's interesting. I don't know what state they didn't mention that. But I mean, everything is state dependent. So anything that you hear business related in, as far as education goes, you always have to look into your state specifically and their laws. They may have laws that other states don't have, or they might be slightly different. So always check with your state. Like you said, there's resources. People, there just needs to kind of get involved. The Chamber of Commerce thing we spoke about, like there's a lot of ways you can, talk to people and figure out what you need to do, or, just do some research online. The states have it up there. They don't make it easy. As
No,
we
they don't.
said, they don't make it easy, but it's out there. You just got to actually dig for it and figure it out. They said, if my insurance has animal Bailey, I think is what it is, coverage, isn't that what covers the dog in the event of an issue?
I'm sorry, Bailey?
Bailee, which I believe that is like a term for the insurance, animal Bailey, where like they cover death or injury to an animal. So yes, I as far as I know, that is the type of insurance that covers animals.
I was thinking, did that come from the one from New York that that lawsuit that was? Because that kind of sounds like it was there. I think it was New York where there was an issue with a dog that was injured and passed away, and then they were making laws and stuff from it. So I've never heard it used in insurance, but it's liability insurance. For
yeah, just read the insurance. That is the term for it. Yeah. Just make sure you're aware of what it covers and, you know, any stipulations in the insurance of like making sure you're protected and, you know, you do things correctly and have all the right evidence for things and all of that. Just read your insurance paperwork and make sure that you're good. Oh, somebody said yes, and the dog's name was Bailey, so I guess that's where it came from. So animal Bailey.
That's what I was thinking when you said Bailey. I was like, wait a minute. I'm guessing they're changing the terminology now due to that lawsuit. But yeah, I think it was New York. Because I also follow any of that stuff too that comes out, because that's eventually going to affect you. So even if it's something in New York or something in California is really big in like coming up with these new laws and new lawsuits and stuff like that can shape the industry significantly. So just because it's in another state doesn't mean that it's not going to affect you eventually.
Absolutely. Do you offer benefits for your groomers?
Oh, heavens, yes. So that's like the biggest thing, draw wise that comes here. I mean, we have medical, dental, vision. We pay half of it. We have a 401k that, if you put in 3%, we put in 3% of your salary. So that's an additional 3% on top of your commission. We have Aflac insurance that covers short-term and long-term disability. We allow our people, male and female, to take 3 months off for maternity and paternity. So both male and female can take it off for a birth or an adoption. We have, paid uniforms. You have pet tech instruction for CPR and first aid. I'm the instructor. You can bring your pets to work with you. We also have learntogroomdogs.com. We have yet to have Groom House yet because I want some more videos, but that is another one that we want to put on where, they have 1,000 videos on there and everyone has access to it. They have access to my entire DVD collection of, Super Styling and Jody Murphy, all of my books that I have myself. I know I'm listening. We have a stipend for education for like $100.
Take notes, people.
Yes.
And she's hiring. If anybody missed that in the beginning, if you're looking for a job and you want to go to Ohio.
You know, we bring educators in. We were actually getting, I know Pina and I were talking about her coming up, and I think I dropped the ball on that. But we also have educators come up too. And so instead of you having to travel to the educator, we bring them to you, just pay for the ticket. We will pay for an educational class at an expo or a contents entry up to $100 per employee, all for them to get continuing education. We allow time off for this too. We also have paid vacation up to 3 weeks. So, I mean, it just goes on.
You got it all.
Yeah. I mean, we want our people to be successful. I have a number of past employees that have gone on and opened their own salons. Some of them I've helped do that. We understand that we might be a stepping stone. Yeah. You know, we understand that, you know, the life of a groomer is about 2 to 5 years, you know. They just don't stay in it too long because they don't have the right equipment. They don't understand that keeping good posture and having the best equipment is going to make the life expectancy longer, you know? So I try to teach them that stuff. I mean, I've been doing this for 21 years. So I must be doing something right if I am still grooming, or I'm crazy.
You gotta keep them happy, right? You know, like what would you want if you were like, you know, you have to think about that.
Yeah.
If I was going to be hired, what are the things that would make me want to stay working at this business? Like, what would make me happy as a employee and do that?
Well, a lot of times it's culture. People don't realize the importance of what culture is, and the culture comes from the CEO on down. If you don't control it, if you don't fan it, then you're going to have a forest fire in the wrong direction. You know, you got to make sure that you are putting people in place, that you are cutting things off when things happen, that you have a safe environment. And that is so important. So many people say that I you know, they keep leaving because of a toxic work environment. You got to cut it off at the knees. Yeah. One bad apple will spoil.
Be quick to fire. Like if somebody comes in and they're not a good fit, don't be like, we'll see, maybe they'll change. No. Maybe we can make this work. Be quick to fire people. The faster you can fire them, the better, because it's just going to make other people that you actually have, you know, working there, doing a good job, they're going to be miserable. And you might push people out that are genuine good employees because you're trying someone else out. Like just, be quick to fire people is a good one.
So one of the, and I know we're not really talking about this right now, but just a tidbit. The way that we hire is everyone gets a vote at my salon.
I like that.
So it has to be unanimous.
Everyone's hiring then.
Yes. So it's everyone has to say yes to that person. Then when we bring them in for a interview, because if they're not going to be on their best behavior at the interview, it's just going to go downhill from there. So I have a whole bunch of eyeballs on that person. I'm not even in the room for the working interview.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the room because I want them to show their true colors. I want them to either shine or trip over something. Yeah. Kind of, not real, but figuratively.
Yeah. Figure out if it's going to work now before you actually go through the whole hiring process and, you know, spend time and money to get them onboarded and all that. Yeah. Figure it out quickly if it's going to work or not.
And then same when it comes to firing someone, if it's going to really mess everything up, I have a team meeting without that person. I'll be like, hey, okay, so we're looking at, you know, firing this person. Is everyone okay with that? And they're like, yes. I'm like, okay, when we do this, we're going to have to divide up all these dogs. We're going to have a couple bad weeks. Are we okay with that? And everyone's like, yes, please get them out. So again, it's a conversation with my staff. Now, if it's something that is a fireable offense, of course we fire them. But when it's going to impact the team, again, they get another vote because they need to take ownership of those decisions. They said yes to them, or, you know, it doesn't work out. So I want everyone to be included in that.
That's genius. I love it. I think that's super important for the staff to be involved in any new person. It's like your family. You're bringing somebody in, you know, like they need to all be okay with it because, like I said, you can push somebody else out that you actually, you know, need there. I love it. We're going to wrap things up and work on the next one. We've got a lot to talk about. We're definitely trying to add a lot more business education to the platform. I think it's super important and people are, it's lacking and they really want it. So we've got so much to talk about and there will be more lives and more webinars and courses on all things business. So keep an eye out for that. I really appreciate you joining us and talking about all the things pricing and hiring related. Lot more we could probably go over, but I think that this was a lot of information and a lot of insight for people, very valuable. So thank you again and have a good night.
All right. Thanks.
Bye, guys.